But we're going to discuss breeding. Breeding theory, breeding thoughts, breeding ideas, what makes it so scary, why are people afraid, just clarifying things for people so that when you're making decisions, you're making them with the actual thought of producing a better dog, a sounder dog, a healthier dog, and not breaking it down as those things are, mutually exclusive, because they're not. We have to evaluate everything. What happened? What?
Talking about your dad look.
It's the only... Listen, first of all, let me just start with COVID hair, don't care. Okay? Cannot literally be bothered to shave because I'm in quarantine. Also, this lovely shirt, well, it's the one that fit. I've tried 3 shirts on. I was trying to go cash with the t-shirt and stuff, but let's just say that it was more body not positive than it was comfortable. So, oh, can you hear the TV? Hold on. I'm just getting out of the shot 1 second.
You can start now.
Is it 2?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was Nat Geo Wild, Wild Australia. And it was just the part where the mama wallaby comes in and, finds her baby still safe. Anyways, so, breeding theory, breeding thoughts. A lot of people, my presentation previous about the dogs of Passport then spurred a bunch of questions about, breeding and theory and thought and what we do and how we do it. And I think when I say things like I line breed and inbreed with very seldom or very rare outcrosses, it made a lot of people get afraid. And the first thing I want everybody to remember is that I think of breeding dogs as animal husbandry, which is for farm animals, but again, it's raising, training, conditioning, showing it's husbandry. It is science. But there is a side where you have to trust your inner voice and where you have to feel something. So I would say it's a little spiritual, but what it's not is religion. So what we need to stop thinking about is inbreeding and line breeding as, incest, because these aren't people, these are dogs. Birds, cats, guinea pigs, whatever you want to breed, they're not people. And really, people have done it for years, the royal families and, certain exclusive families and certain, countries and places. But that said, that's not what we're here to talk about. So we'll start with how I think about stuff. I think about things in terms of how am I going to make a dog that fits the standard, is aesthetically pleasing, and has health, emotional, and mental soundness as well. So the first part is let's do emotional and mental soundness. That's an easy one. Emotional and mental soundness. You breed dogs who are sound. You breed dogs who are afraid, not traumatized, but truly were born with a little bit off kilter, noise sensitivity, just issues. You can breed away from that, but you have to be very consciously aware of how to do it and where you're going, and always pick the puppy with the better temperament, and soon it'll go away. I mean, it really does. We started with like a noise-sensitive line, and now we have these dogs that don't care about anything. You can bang and clang and pop and do everything. But we conscientiously made the effort to go to dogs with these outstanding temperaments and that were very solid. The next part is actual health. Every breed right now has health issues, every dog, everything that you go into. So do the testing. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to ask. Now, a lot of old school breeders, they're not so forthcoming. If you ask the right question, they'll tell you. If you don't ask the right question, they're not going to just volunteer. I tend to ask a lot of questions about siblings and parents and grandparents, great-grandparents, half-brothers and sisters, cousins, uncles, aunts. And so you remember these things. I remember them in my brain. You can also write them down. And this gives you a greater idea of what you're expecting or what there is or what has happened. And ask who they've been bred to, what's been bred to what. Years ago, we had a perfectly health-cleared German Shepherd bitch, and she was, every clearance. And she was bred to a dog with every clearance. And the puppies had so many issues. Hips, testicles, pancreatic enzyme deficiency. Like, they had everything. The parents were alive, the grandparents were alive, we did everything, and it just didn't work. Now, was that litter not a success? Actually, no, because they had beautiful type, beautiful backs, beautiful side gait. They were structurally sound. They were visually, aesthetically beautiful. They had great coats, full dentition, good eyes, and really they were each lacking a minor thing. One had the missing testicle, one was a little psychotic, one had pancreatic enzyme deficiency, one was dysplastic. So in the grand scheme of nose to tail structure, and then the full list of health clearances, could I say that the litter was a disaster? No, but they were disastrous. So we didn't do that cross again. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you reevaluate what didn't mesh. So health is very important. I would never advocate breeding dogs without health testing. I think people should, but I also don't think people should throw dogs out without being reasonable, and thinking about health testing as being part of one of your tools, not the final decision. I don't believe in breeding dogs on paper. I believe in using pedigrees for research, for knowledge, for pairing up, for the roadmap to where you're going, but I don't believe that you can breed two physical beings, two live dogs, on paper, because on paper something could look fantastic, and then when you look at the two dogs, they're beat up as hell. Sway-backed, broken-tailed, pigeon-toed, cross-eyed, and you're like, what the fuck? I was looking at this pedigree, and they're supposed to be amazing, and they're not. Well, yeah, not every dog in a litter is amazing. Not every dog should be bred. Sometimes people don't realize that the lesser litter mate, like the mediocre average litter mate in a fantastic litter from really good parents, is a better solution for breeding than an outstanding dog from mediocre parents in an average litter. Does that make sense? Think about it. You have one dog who's a star out of a lineup of okay, or you can use the okay dog out of a lineup of stars who are better than average. That's a really big difference. Genetically, phenotypically, genotypically, genotypically, but phenotypically a big difference. So that brings me to genotype and phenotype. Simply put, for people to understand, and there's lots of, the full clinical definition and everything. We're going to talk like real terms. We're in my kitchen. I'm drinking sweet tea. I hope somebody else is drinking something else. Genotype is genetics. It's what you don't see. It's what they carry, what they have. Phenotype is the expression of either double recessive or dominant genetics. So pheno is what you see, physical, pheno, I see it. Blue eyes versus brown eyes, phenotype. Genotype, one parent had brown eyes, one parent had blue eyes. The genotype was the brown-eyed parent carried a recessive. Offspring has blue eyes. Phenotype, you see it. Double recessive expression. Questions?
Why not use one of the stars?
Oh, no. You can use one of the stars, but I'm saying, say you have two littermate brothers, and one is outstanding, and one is good. You can't get to the outstanding dog. They have outstanding parents. The litter was so consistent. This is a good dog, not a great dog. He has holes. This has holes too, but this is a good, really good dog. This is like like one you go, wow. There's nothing wrong with saying I will breed to the brother. Or if you're starting out and the breeder has this really outstanding litter, but the kind of homely bitch is in the litter and that's the one they're going to sell you, don't be afraid to buy her. Maybe she's not going to win a best in show or a specialty. Okay, and breed her to that outstanding dog, and guess what? The genes are there. She is the homely sister in a litter of outstanding. The genes are there. The likelihood that she's going to bring that forth is much greater than a star in a litter of mediocre. That's what I'm saying. Did that clarify? I hope. So where was I before? See, I lose track so easy. It's terrible. Genotype, phenotype. Okay, so the physical expression. So I want people to I want to talk in layman's terms. I want us to talk where everybody comprehends. If there's something I'm saying that doesn't make sense, like the last question, please jump in and ask. Marissa's watching and she'll tell me. line breeding, inbreeding, outcrossing. So technically line breeding is uncle, niece, grandparents, granddaughter, half siblings, and that all those connections beyond inbreeding, which are father, daughter, mother, son, brother, sister, littermate, full littermates. And you could be technical and say inbreeding is also siblings from separate litters. I don't know, but that's kind of, yeah. And then outcrossing is unrelated dogs in the first, let's say 3 generations, maybe more. I just had a litter, and I said that they were line bred, and everybody was like, well, it's father-daughter, so it's inbreeding. And in all actuality, it would be inbreeding, except the sire himself was an outcross, total outcross, nothing related, like pedigree all over the place. Good dogs put together, but nothing made sense. And I bred him back to his daughter, so that makes it an inbreeding, except for that he was bred to an outcross. So there was like genetic diversity everywhere. I mean, there was just so much everywhere. So when we did the inbreeding, I called it a line breeding because it didn't really tighten much up. It brought in it concentrated to some, but it didn't really tighten things up. To me, inbreeding is when you have something that's line bred on various, like really line bred, and then you bring it together, father, daughter, and really tighten it up. I did a brother-sister breeding recently, and it didn't turn out because the bitch had a C-section and the puppies had aspiration pneumonia from a tiny bit of fluid still being in their lungs, so they never had proper oxygen. One died, and one struggled to grow, and when she got her through, when we found out it was pneumonia, we put her on antibiotics, but she struggled and never had enough oxygen to actually grow in the vital stages, so she was basically a teeny tiny version of a normal dachshund. They were really nice. The one that was alive was really nice. She just wasn't sound. Not that she wasn't good walking and everything. She just wasn't healthy. She would always be a little, retarded and held back because of that. So I would do it again. But the thing is, it was an inbreeding because it was full litter mates. But the sire was tightly line bred, very tightly bred, and the dam was very tightly bred. But they weren't related at all. So they themselves were outcrosses. So the results, had we had a litter, should have been almost 50-50. One line and the other line concentrated. We'll never know because, again, one died and the other one was like meh. Any questions? Anybody ask? Okay. So the thing with inbreeding is you can't be afraid. Inbreeding has to be done when you understand the quality of the dog you have. I probably should clarify that. Breeding should be done when you understand the quality of the dog you have. If you have rose-colored glasses on and you think your dog is wonderful, well, I'm sure Fluffy is just a great fucking pet. And she's the greatest dog you've ever owned, and she is your heart and soul. But when you go to breed Fluffy, you need to open your eyes wide. You need to have a standard, you need to have a pedigree, you need to have some history, and you need to look at Fluffy and go, Fluffy could use this. Fluffy's amazing here. She's not so good here. I like this. Her father had this, her mother had this, her grandparents had this. Oh, look, her littermates all had this, but they didn't have that. You have to be really honest and brutally honest, because you can't breed a dog that you think is outstanding with no faults and then have outstanding puppies. It doesn't work. You got to be realistic. You got to know your strong points. You got to know your deficits. You got to know where they came from, the strong points and deficits, and then you have to figure out how to keep what's good and then grow it by also adding more. It's like a strange puzzle. Questions? Anybody? I could go on for hours about this. I love talking about breeding dogs. I think a lot of people aren't aware of what they have. And then you have people like me who are hyper-focused on what they have to the point where we think our dogs are total shit, and then we go out in public or we show them to people and they're like, oh my God, they're outstanding. And you're like, really? Don't you see this, this, and this? Because I'm trying to focus on adding an underjaw or just a little bit more laid back of the shoulder, or how can I get those last 4 ribs to be longer? Where can I find that length of rib? And so I'm looking at the minutia and the details to improve what I think is good, and others are looking at it going, this is outstanding, and I'm going, but don't you see this, and don't you? And I think that's good when you're creative and your brain works that way, because you really never settle for what you have, but you're always striving for more. But I also think it's bad because sometimes I have become so involved in the minutia that I lose how much success I have had putting dogs together. Question?
When doing a total outcross to bring in something that you lack in your pedigree, what are some of the things you are not willing to introduce? For example, epilepsy, back, dentition, surgically bringing down testicle, and temperament issues.
Okay, so that was a great question, and I was coming to that. So when you're doing an outcross, inbreeding, or line breeding, any kind of breeding you do, you, the breeder, has to decide what is important. What's important? You have to weigh this out in your brain. You have to say to yourself, health is never, ever a question for me. I would never introduce epilepsy. I would never introduce heart disease. I would never introduce anything that could kill a puppy or potentially kill a puppy or cause death if a novice person was to breed from this dog. Simply because our dogs are shown 2-3 years. Lately people have been showing them 5 or 6, but that's not me. But they're really shown a very short time. And then they have to be a companion. And us, like many breeders in our position, in the old days could have big kennels. We can't. So a lot of times we have dogs that we use for breeding, 1 litter, 2 litters maybe, bitches, stud dogs we collect, and then we place them in homes, alter them and place them in homes. So these dogs will now live, let's say, from 4 to 16, 12 more years. I can't possibly, justify adding known health issues that could cause them to have a shortened lifespan or to hurt a potential companion home. It's just not me. But missing teeth, well, how important is missing teeth to your standard and to you? If your line does not have missing teeth, and you know that you're going to bring this dog back in, the outcross breeding, you're going to bring it back into line breeding, is missing teeth really like something you're going to lose sleep over? But you have to weigh that out. And as is anything else you add or not, or detract. Question?
You have a couple now. When you look at parents and grandparents, how many generations do you go back?
Personally, 3, 4 tops. But I think beyond that, you start to really dilute everything, and it doesn't make sense. Unless you're looking at a pedigree like with one of our current recent pedigrees, where the grandmother, or the great-grandmother, the great-grandmother is the same bitch almost up the line, except for maybe 2. Go ahead.
When you are looking at the whole package for breeding and have a line-bred possible pair that could tighten up lines, what do you mean by that, tighten up lines?
I mean, okay, when you line breed or you inbreed, what you're doing is taking the breeding that you have and you're consolidating those genetics. So let's say, like my Abigail. I bred Abigail to a dog named Bubba. I bred Abigail to a dog named Hummer. I bred those 2 together, the offspring, which was my Jason, my Ivanka. Okay? There was double Abigail. So she was the 50% contributing factor in that breeding. I took those puppies, the result of that, which was a bitch named Lainey, and I bred it back to her cousin, which was my Sanders dog, a Jana's son, so Jace's sister. So it was triple Abigail. Okay? So in that 1, 2, 3, in that 3rd generation, every granddam was Abigail except for a dog named Buster, which was the sire of Sanders. So now I have that. I don't know how to talk COIs because I never learned that. I think it's a great tool for people who want to do science on a computer. I myself just write pedigrees out and highlight them or scribble stuff on notebook paper and make little arrows. But now I've tightened it up because now they're 3 times Abigail. So my ideal bitch is Abigail, and I've increased her 3 times in that pedigree, and I've gotten it. So now the question is, how do I go out to come back in safely? Question?
Years back,
Did I answer that? If I didn't, please ask for clarification.
Years back, smooths were bred to long hairs to get fronts. Would that be something you would consider now?
Okay, so here's the thing. I do cross-coding in my dachshunds. It's not for everybody. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, don't. The thing is, smooths were bred to longs for fronts is a very blanket statement because right now, I think you have to find a dog with a front, smooth wire or long, and then you can breed to it. You can't breed wire to long genetically. No. Bad coats, absolutely no. Smooth to wire, long to smooth. Long is recessive to smooth. Wire is dominant to smooth. Anyhow, but the question is, would I cross coats to bring in a good front? Yes. Would I cross coats to bring in a better rear? Yes. Would I cross coats to bring in attributes? Absolutely. As long as I know my genetics. My dogs at this point, except for one litter, don't carry the long gene. So I can use a long and safely have all smooth puppies. They'll be recessives, but I'll have all smooth puppies. Question? Did I answer that?
Odie said it. True.
Okay.
So Kimberly said, so I'm a total newbie in this informational breeding. Where do I find the best information on how to do this correctly?
Yay! Okay. The first book that I read when I was a teenager was this one, How to Breed Better Dogs by Whitney. It's an amazing book. It was like my Bible. It had everything. Whitney was a veterinarian. He was, I think, 40s, 50s, and he did food studies. And he wrote stuff like Inheritance of Eye Color. I mean, come on. He bred bloodhounds and various different hounds and sporting dogs because he did food studies. Inheritance of Code Characteristics. People, this book was like my Bible when I was a teenager. The words still ring true today. Then, look at this. Hut. Genetics for Dog Breeders. Chapter 11. Look at this. Eyes and Ears. This is another very old book. I collect old books. I love them, especially the ones like this. And it shows you dwarfism. It shows you pictures. It shows you issues. Back in the day, it talks about genetics. Then, another book that I found absolutely essential, Canine Reproduction. It was an Alpine's book, and it was by Phyllis Holst. See it? Okay. Then Mary Dukes had mentioned this fabulous book by Mary Williams, and it's called Advanced Labrador Breeding. So we bought it, and it is a fabulous book with amazing advice. I mean, one of the things she says in here is you can't own every dog you've ever had for the rest of your life if you want to have a productive line of dogs and continue forward. You sometimes have to decide which ones are going to be your special old age parishioners, and then decide which ones have to move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. Giving them the best chance to have a great life, there's nothing wrong with that. And then I read this book, After Bar Sinister, by Oppenheimer. Amazing. So much advice. So fantastic. It talks about the life of this dog. It talks about breeding bull terriers. You don't have to be a bull terrier person to read this and understand and comprehend, just like you don't have to be a lab person. And lastly, another book that was tremendous from when I was a kid, even now, to really comprehend. The photos are amazing. Robert Cole's An Eye for a Dog. These are truly amazing. So, anybody have questions about the books?
They do want to know if you'll post a book list afterwards.
Oh, I can. I can post a book list. I would be happy to. Some of these are hard to find. This is a rare book. Very rare. Precious to us. The Oppenheimer book. Very rare. After Bar Sinister. Another very rare book. Amazon.com. Look these up. The Leon Whitney book.
You can still find them.
You can still find these. They're pricey, but you can find them. After Bar Sinister was pricey, and so was the Mary Rollins Williams book. But again, this book, when I was a kid and I got this book, I truly lived by this book. Because like he's got here, who does this? Greyhound coat genetics, Bloodhound coat color genetics, coat color genetics. Like, and you go, oh, he did Bloodhounds. Did you know that Bloodhounds actually have a bobtail gene? I know. I didn't know it either until I read this book. So, I think reading and knowing and studying genetics is important. I also think seeing and watching is important. Go ahead.
Did you ever read Lloyd Brackett?
I have read Lloyd Brackett. I don't recall it, but I think that's where my theory between Lloyd Brackett's theory and mine, that when we breed the sire's dam in my brain to the dam sire, that cross genetics. And I think that's what Brackett did too. But that's how I was taught when I was a kid, is the sire's dam bred to the dam sire is kind of what you're probably going to get in your litter. It holds true. I mean, it's actually pretty good. More questions? Anybody?
Jen Hartman said, "Where's your copy of Born to Win?"
On a shelf. Is that the Pat Hastings book, right? Born to Win. Pat. I mean, I'm sorry. Christ, you would think I was drinking something more than tea. That was Pat Trotter's book, Born to Win. I have it on a shelf. I've read that book too, actually, and Carmen Battaglia's book. Those were both good to read. Pat was a doer, so her book was really amazing because she actually did, like what she wrote about. I mean, okay, and this is like truly. So Pat Trotter's entire line of Vinmelka dogs goes back to her foundation bitch. Born to Win, the cocker on the cover. That was Joyce. Her whole kennel goes back to one bitch. Mind blowing. Think about that. It is an unbroken line from her foundation bitch.
Can you repeat one more time the author with the book with the bloodhounds?
Yeah, that was Leon F. Whitney, DVM. The book is called How to Breed Dogs. Like, cut and dry. The first edition was in 1937. So, and it is like a Bible. It's amazing. Truly amazing. What? No questions? So, when we make decisions, we do a balance thing. So, like when I'm visually looking at a dog, and I know his parents and grandparents, so let me let you in on the insanity that is my brain. When I look at dogs, and when I visualize them, and I'm looking at them for a bitch or for a dog, vice versa. When I'm looking at this pedigree, I see them as an avatar. I see them as a 3D dotted line vision. And then I lay the dog on top of the bitch to see where the dotted lines become solid because they blend neck to shoulder. And you also see where the gap is, and so you see the deficits. And if I see more blending than deficits, I do the breeding in my mind. Go ahead.
You mentioned the key role of mentors. In this current day, many have trouble finding mentors. What do you suggest to advance for success and be realistic about their programs?
One, ask questions with the intent of listening. I have a hard time because I get so excited about stuff that I talk, and I had to learn how to shut up. Shocking. I know, everybody's laughing at home, whatever, shut up all of you. But I had to learn to be quiet. I had to learn to ask a question and then listen. Nobody wants to feel unvalued. Nobody wants to feel like what they're telling you or your opinion or what you say is not worth it. Be civil. Listen to what somebody says. You may not agree. It may not be what you were taught. Listen to them, process it, say thank you, and walk away. A lot of times, older people and people who have been successful, they've been burnt, they've been annoyed, they've been stabbed in the back. And so they're not really running out there to go and say, hey, let me help you, because they've learned that when no good deed goes unpunished. So try to listen with the intent of hearing and be gracious when you get the information. And even if you don't agree, think on it, and if it's worth applying it to what you're doing or not. Do you understand? Like, don't just dismiss it because it's foreign to you. You asked. So think, process it, and then use parts. Don't use all of it, but at least be gracious about it and be grateful and say thank you. When something happens, say, I am so grateful to so-and-so because they gave me their time. I am so grateful. Nothing happens because you wake up one morning and say, this is going to happen. It takes a village to help you. Go ahead. Question?
You have a few. Can you talk about your experience with breeds that are downsized?
Breeds are like mini Americans.
King Johnson asked.
Yeah, so mini Americans and even Dachshunds, when you're doing down breeding, the main goal is to focus on structure and the standard, and then pick the best of the dogs to the size. And remember, like when we breed Chihuahuas, you have to remember that just because a dog is small, the parents could have been great big parents. You have to know what's behind them when you're doing these breedings. Many Americans right now are coming into their own. They're really becoming consistent and starting to become quite lovely. But I think people still don't realize that the genetics are a little wonky, and you have to be careful what you're doubling up on. Did I miss a question?
You have more.
No.
When repeating breedings, do you expect the same quality?
I don't repeat breedings. So I had this talk with a very amazing breeder named Bill Shelton. And Bill Shelton repeats breedings. And he had implored me to try it. And was taught early on, and he was, and you know what, I have to say, his argument for it was, repeat the breeding, because if it worked, it'll work again. You may not get the same mixture, but you'll get quality. That was his thing, and that made a lot of sense to me. But I was always taught, because I have a very small breeding program, like right now, people don't realize we have, I think, 3 intact bitches in this house and 4 intact dogs. And I don't count my puppies because they're not old enough to make a decision on whether they're going to be bred or not. But we have a small breeding program. So for me to repeat a breeding sometimes takes away a chance to have different genetic material or diversity that I couldn't do otherwise. So I don't repeat breedings for that purpose, because I'm always afraid that I may not get as good as, or I may get better than, and then what I have already here is like, what do I do with it? So that's me. But I don't tell people not to, because like I said, when I talked to Bill Shelton, he made a great argument for it, and he was right. If a dog and a bitch have produced quality, they will produce quality again. It may not be the same quality that you had, or like they may not have all stars, but they're producing quality, and that's what's important. In birds, they tell you that if you know a mated pair is working, then you breed their brothers and sisters to each other, because you know that genetic cross is going to work, and it possibly will give you good outcomes with the other breedings. Next question.
How important is temperament in your breeding program and in the show ring?
Temperament is probably high up there for me. I mean, like way high up there, because again, show dogs are born and they're made. They come out with an attitude and then you cultivate it. But they live as companions much longer. And we as breeders and people in providing a for sale item to the world, so like to laymen or to like regular people, we're trying to produce an item that is not going to be recalled or rejected. We need to produce dogs that have sound minds and bodies, because we want them to be pets, and we want people to go, that came from a breeder. That's a purebred dog that came from a breeder. We need to get our dogs from breeders like that, because they breed great pets, great companions. Any questions that aren't answered, I can do a follow-up tomorrow, and I can write them all down, and so don't worry about not being answered. Go ahead.
Okay. Wendy Snyder said, I was told to look at the coattails of a pedigree. Which is the dogs on the top of the sire lines and the bottom of the bitches lines? Do you feel this is a way to look at the pedigrees? If yes, why? If no, why? To me, it throws out the whole center of the pedigree.
Okay, so again, I think that was part of bracket theory, is like the crossbreeding thing. For me, a pedigree is very important. The whole pedigree. Because you can take the most amazing dog and breed it to a mediocre bitch, and guess what you have? 50% mediocre genetics if what's behind her is mediocre. Like, if she comes from mediocre, and her lines aren't improving, guess what's happening? Even if he makes the puppies better than her, they're not as good as him. So you need to know your pedigrees to know which way to steer your direction.
Somebody sent me a private message. The Advanced Labrador Breeding book by Mary Williams was reissued in 2000 with a revised title to give it a wider appeal. It's called Reaching for the Stars by Doral Publishing.
So the Mary Rollins book, the new one, is called Reaching for the Stars, and it's by Doral Publishing. This is the old one, obviously, but the new one is by Doral Publishing, Reaching for the Stars. What was the next question?
Do you agree that stable temperament is highly inherent in animal husbandry?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stable dogs produce stable dogs. Stable dogs, tightly bred on stable dogs, can be bred to unstable bitches and produce stable dogs, and vice versa. But you can't revert back and breed to something unstable afterwards. You got to keep going to stable dogs.
When choosing a bitch for foundation, what do you look for?
Perfection. No, I'm just kidding. It depends. My ankle has an itch. Sorry, guys. It depends on the breed. So let's just use Dachshunds, because that's what where my brain is at right now. For Dachshunds, I want a bitch with bone and substance, that's long, low, and level. I want good, long ribs. She doesn't necessarily have to be glamorous. She doesn't have to be the most gorgeous thing in the whole world. She has to have everything has to be right. Not great, right. She doesn't have to have any glaring faults. I don't want to. It sounds like I'm saying common, but I'm not. I want her eye shape to be correct. I want her to have underjaw. I want her to have teeth, obviously. I want her to have good rib length, and I want her to have the right kind of ribs. And I want her to have a beautiful front and short hock and bend to stifle. If I'm looking at her and thinking to myself, okay, where am I going to go with this? Is she a foundation bitch or a brood bitch for me? Where am I going to go with this? You know, a bitch in dachshunds has to be much better because the dogs are not. We have a lot of good dogs, and we have a lot of dogs that produce well, but we don't have anything. I don't think there's really any dogs that are like what I personally would consider like superstar, outstanding, like amazing, you know. And I think that's in a lot of breeds. The bitches are just higher quality. So you need to have a bitch that has strong and her pedigree. I'd like to. My foundation bitch would have to be line bred or inbred on the quality, like tight. Go ahead.
What do you look for when you want to diversify your bloodline?
When I go for an outcross, the rare outcrosses that I do and have done, and when I started, I did 2 outcrosses, and I've line bred and inbred back. I can use these dogs because I bred to them, and I love the owners. So the first breeding I did for my beautiful Abigail was an outcross. It was to June Mann's dog, Glenna Riff's Maybe You Should Know. He's a long-haired dog, long-haired dachshund. He had a phenomenal headpiece, and Abigail's got a phenomenal headpiece. He had a beautiful neck to shoulders. Abigail has a beautiful neck to shoulders. Abigail's got fantastic ribbing, so did he. He didn't have as short a hock as she did, but he had good bend to stifle. He had a back like a board. What he had that I needed when I went to him was tremendous bone, tremendous substance. He had an ass like a quarter horse. So if you shape an apple, you know, that's the kind of butt you want, but like round. And he had this big thighs and big butt, and he was a temperament to beat the band. You could beat stuff over Bubba's head, and he's like, whatever, dude. He didn't freak. And Abigail had come from lines that produced noise sensitivity. So I had to be super careful to not go back to noise sensitivity. I wanted something happy, waggy-tailed. I bred to him. The second dog I bred to was the Darshan dog, Hummer. Another dog, not noise sensitive, happy outgoing temperament, good back, long neck to shoulder, beautiful rear angulation. And from those outcrosses, I bred to my deficits, and I needed to bring in temperament. I needed to bring in soundness. Did I answer the question?
To diversify your bloodline.
So, and the reason I went to those 2 dogs is because they were tightly bred on their pedigrees. They were both tightly bred. I mean, tightly bred. And she's already line bred, so I brought 2 tight breedings together, and it was able to balance out, and I was able to not lose what I have, but gain something. If you take an outcross to an outcross, you're basically just ping-ponging all over the place. When you go for an outcross, if they're not related, at least try to find dogs that look like yours, phenotypically look like yours, because at least they're going in the same direction you're at. The look, the style, the shape, even though the pedigree's not the same, they're trying to produce a phenotype like your phenotype, and at least that will help you. And I always go, when I outcross, I go to line bred or inbred outcrosses. Okay, go ahead. I hope I answered that.
In the current climate of limited numbers in kennels, what is your opinion of working with other breeders, standing to stud or leasing bitches?
I don't lease bitches. My bitches are very precious to me. And it's not that I don't trust anybody else. It's a very few people that I would let have one of my bitches. A bitch can get pyometria. A bitch can have issues delivering. A bitch can lose her uterus. She can go sterile. There's a lot of things that can happen to your bitches. I breed every bitch like it's her last breeding, so leasing a bitch is very hard for me. As far as standing dogs that stud, we had a very closed-door policy for a long time because people are ungrateful, and the stud dog is always the problem. I have opened that up quite a bit recently, but most people don't breed to our dogs because they don't like me, and I'm okay with that because it's really not a best friends situation. But I would breed to the right bitches if they came and asked me properly. Like, they have to give me a reason why. Why do you want to use Jace? Why do you want to use Sanders? What do you think that they're going to contribute? What have you seen? Ask me the questions that make me believe that you're doing this breeding because you want to produce better dogs. I think most people who have good stud dogs feel this way.
Low number at-risk breeds, quality versus quantity. Thoughts?
Low number at-risk breeds, quality versus quantity. Well, that's a conundrum because you want to have enough genetic material to work with, but you don't want to have shitty genetic material. Like, if you breed a whole bunch of crappy dogs, who gives a shit if you increase the numbers by double? They're all crap. So you're trying to be genetically diverse, increase your numbers, and this is where with the low number dogs, being a breeder and knowing a goal helps a lot.
They have to work together.
And yeah, those breeders have to really work together. You know, a lot of like Labradors, Dachshunds, those breeders don't really have to work together because there's so many of them. But those low number, you know, dogs, they have to work together. And like in Manchesters, those breeders work together. They do a great job. Across the board, Manchester Terrier, Toy Manchester, and Standard Manchester Terrier breeders are doing phenomenal. Their breed has improved. The quality of their dogs overall is great. And not just one breeder. Multiple breeders have good quality dogs.
I was told if I like a dog or bitch, you should breed to what produced it. Do you agree? And if not, why not?
So I was always taught, why bother breed to the father? If you like the son, go to the father. Except that if you like the son, maybe it was his mother that gave him the things you liked. You know, like there's a great bitch behind some of these dogs. So I do believe if you want to line breed back, or tighten things up, yes, go to the sire side, go to the dam's brother, do that if they're the right dog for your bitch. But I also believe that when you look at a stud dog, you're taking into account not only the sire that produced him, but the dam. And a lot of times, think about it, some of these dogs have phenomenal dams and okay sires because it's very hard to find a dog for a great bitch.
Have you found any other smooth kennels that blend well with your dogs? If yes, how did you identify these kennels?
Oh, well, so this is very personal, and that's okay because I signed up for this. So, yes, my dogs started with a blending of Hisville, which was Ladland and Doc Smith Love, and Kohana. And then I have my foundation bitch was Mitternock and JG's. All these kennels brought different things, right? And then I decided, as I did my research, to go back to Kohana, to go back to JG's and Darshan, which was JG's and Darshan bred together, and bring that forward. And then I added a bit of Ladland because K-Lad's dogs were so elegant, and Diane Paransky's dogs are so sound, and Eric Henningsen and Jan. Eric is JG's, and then Jan and Jerry are Darshan. Their dogs are beautifully elegant, curvaceous, and so those pedigrees have all worked very well to produce what I have. And what I've done through like a frozen semen litter, I went to a dog named Phoenix. Thanks to Jerry Saracini for selling me the semen. And Phoenix is old JG's lines, and Hummer, which is Jana's father, is Darshan JG's. So you see, a Phoenix bred back to my stuff, and now I can take those together and double up, because Phoenix is Hummer's great-grandfather. So I've kind of been playing with Kohana, because I went to Diane Paransky for my last couple breedings, and my own stud dog. So I've woven these kennels together with mine. Eventually, I'm going to have an outcross somewhere.
Ann Schmidt says, I've seen so many new breeders say they are going to buy a puppy for stud for their program. Can you please address why people should never do this as newbies?
Yeah, because once a stud, if you're buying a dog for one specific breeding, what are you going to do with the rest of his 16 years of life? You need to have a dog that you keep a dog. I have a house of, I'm doing a lot of speaking about myself because I don't want to point out at anybody else or deflect on anybody else. I'll just use myself as an example. But right now I have 4 intact stud dogs in my house with a young dog that I'm growing out. So that's 5 stud dogs. Most people do not have that luxury, or as stupid as I am. But I have 5 intact stud dogs, and each brings something different, and their pedigrees bring something different to the table. When you and I have an ROMO, top producing dog, 34 champions on one dog. The young Sanders dog was bred 3 times, so I'll have 15 champions. We're going to start using the Decker dog now because he's got like 4 or 5 finished. And then the young puppy dog, and then I'm going to be breeding the brindle dog. So my dogs are producers. They have proven to produce themselves. Nobody's beating down my door, and I'm okay with that, but that's the thing people don't realize. You want to buy a stud dog for your program. Okay, so you buy a bitch, you breed to him, you keep the daughters. Is he good enough to line breed on or inbreed on? Is he good enough to take his daughters back to him? And now you do that, and now you have his granddaughters. Now where do you go with him? Oh, you don't. So this dog is going to live at your house till 16 years old, and who's going to use him? Maybe your friend. Maybe you'll desperately throw him at a couple people with mediocre bitches. and how does that help the breed? That's my point. A stud dog when you're keeping a dog for breeding, you should know that you have to use him for quite a bit, or you're going to freeze him, or you have a purpose for him. And it's really hard because people aren't keeping good stud dogs like they used to. So only a handful of us have dogs, a bunch of dogs, and then there's a lot of frozen. So I don't think a novice shouldn't do it, but not with the idea of founding a whole breeding program on a dog. Breeding programs are founded on bitches, in my opinion.
So Jan Ward wants to know, why do so many breeders only special many, many bitches but not dogs? Is it that there's just not enough quality?
In our breed, Jan, or in general? Because in general, I find that bitches are much stronger quality in all breeds. And in our breed, here's the thing. In our breed, you get this. So secondary sex characteristics are important in all breeds, right? Dogs look like dogs, bitches look like bitches. So in dachshunds, I have found that the dogs with the beautiful fronts and the big masculinity, and it stands out like this and they stand up tall, well, that testosterone kick gives them all their front and gives them all that big crest and masculinity. It also restricts the amount of movement they can have because all their front and all that masculinity and all that testosterone and stallion-y look, right? Like in horses, a thoroughbred on the track does not look like a stud horse. A stud horse becomes a whole different animal, you know? Still fast, still beautiful, just a whole different animal. An athlete retired look great when you're out there working out and doing all that stuff. When you retire, you know, quarantine yourself to a few pounds. No, but I'm just saying, so it's very hard to special a dog who's correctly masculine and correctly representing secondary sex characteristics and have judges. A Pekingese judge will not understand that a dachshund with correct secondary sex characteristics won't race around the ring at full speed or won't have the same range of motion as a bitch who hasn't been bred yet. You know, a lot of dachshund bitches are bred after they're shown, not while they're being shown or during or in between. That's my personal opinion. I think bitches are just higher quality overall. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just curious, do breeders ever consider working ability the breed originally was used for?
Absolutely. There's a million breeders. Listen, I love when people say, do they consider this? I consider it, and I don't do anything with my dogs. But I have a dual champion thanks to the Wurtzes who took her out and got her dual. She has hunt ability. I breed for ability. I may not be able to go do it, but I breed for ability. And I think anybody who is trying to be a preservation breeder has function in mind always. Purpose and function are the reasons we breed the dogs for the shape, make, and style that they are. Purpose and function. Otherwise, we could breed any generic dog you want. Next, I'm sorry. There's a lot of questions, people. I'm so sorry. I know I'm long-winded. I apologize. Go ahead.
What is your definition of a line-bred dog?
My definition of a line-bred dog?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the technical definition is uncle, niece, grandfather, granddaughter. My definition is basically the same, but I don't want to see a lot of outcrossing there. So I want to see, like I did, half brother, half sister, back to the first cousin. Okay, so very tight. You know, fourth generation, 1, 2, 3, 4 grandmothers, 3 of them are the same bitch. And then 2 grandfathers are the same. So very tight.
This is a 2-part question.
Uh-huh.
How are health issues managed if we know what may be recessive but there is no verified testing? Also, what are some health issues in your breed?
My breed has everything like everybody else's. Entropion, ectropion, heart disease, bad patellas. Well, we're dwarfs, so the hip dysplasia thing is a little weirdly different with us. Bad elbows, again, dwarfism. What else do we have, Joyce? IVDD, Pez varus, which is part of having dwarfism. So we have a bunch of stuff. And if you know that there's no health test, but it's a recessive gene, I talked about this in the last thing. I have dogs with dwarfism, mild to severe. Severe was spayed and neutered, put in pet homes. Mild, finished champions, top producers, because it's, again, a breed with achondroplasia. See Sarah Murphy, achondroplasia? And so I take dwarfism into account and I don't run from it. I don't breed 2 dwarfs to each other. So I think that would be my answer. If you know and identify a dog carrying a recessive, even though there's not a test, don't double up on it. Unless you're the kind of breeder that can make a hard choice. And if you have a dog with a double recessive, and 2 recessive, like a dog and a bitch, but it's a great breeding, and you are willing to be responsible and accountable, because a lot of people don't have that in them. They cannot be accountable. They want to be fucking brave and they want to talk a lot, but they don't have accountability. If you're the kind of breeder that can take a chance and that puppy comes up with a problem, I know it's shitty, but you put it down or you take care of it humanely. And then you still have a great puppy. Can you live with yourself? That's what you have to ask yourself. I can't answer that. I don't know if I could do it. I have done it in the past. I don't know if I could do it today, to take a chance. But every breeder has to do that for themselves. But great dogs come from taking chances. But again, the main word is accountability. You have to be accountable to yourself and to the quality of life for whatever dogs you bring into this earth. Go ahead.
Have you ever looked way back in a pedigree and brought that stud, frozen semen, forward to a bitch you have now?
Yes. I just did it. That's what. So
People are tuning in. So
I'm sorry, guys, who aren't tuning in. So I bred to a dog named Hummer. And I bred him to my beautiful Janet, to my Abigail. And that produced Janet and Jace. Hummer's great-grandfather is a dog named Phoenix. JG's sun-kissed Phoenix. Dual champion ROMO super stud dog, right? Did a lot of producing. I was able to buy frozen semen. So I brought the frozen semen, and I had a very tightly bred bitch of mine named Nini, and I bred him to her, which is a total outcross. Oh, you did an outcross. I did. But now I have these Nini Phoenix puppies that I can breed back to, I'm going to breed the bitch back to Jace. So she's kind of like his great aunt slash cousin. So, I mean, on paper it's really tight on the top side, and on paper it's really tight on the bottom side. So it's going to be pretty outstanding. But yeah, I did. I bring frozen, if I can bring frozen semen in, I do. I just had a frozen semen litter with Jana, with the hopes of bringing that back in a different area. So yes.
Can you comment on the popular stud dog syndrome?
Yeah, everybody's a star fucker. Everybody wants to breed to the dog, the flavor of the month. Popular stud dog syndrome, a great stud dog will leave his mark, right? That's one thing. But the people who get the best out of him are the people who know why they're going to him. Popular stud dog syndrome is for star fuckers because they see he's one of best in show, and he bred to, Pam's dog, and Pam's dog had 7 champions. So I'm going to breed my bitch to him too. But your bitch doesn't look like Pam's bitch. So why are you going to do it? Makes no sense. Go ahead. I'm sorry. My wife is laughing at me. I can't look at her. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. Like, people get so intense about something. Like, this dog is going to fix the ills of the world. Except for you got an ugly-ass bitch that he can't really fix. But no, please, go make more puppies. And that, my friends, is my biggest issue. Are you a breeder or are you a producer? I breed dogs purposefully and with a plan. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I put those puppies in pet homes. But there's never a reason that I'm not going in a direction. But if you're a producer, you know what you're doing? You're throwing spaghetti at the wall. And whatever sticks, you're like, oh, look, I got some good ones. Yeah, you made 100 fucking puppies, so you have 5 good ones. Good for you. Jesus Christ. You flooded the market with all this mediocre stuff, or the ring with all your mediocre dogs. So now these judges are so confused, and you go in the ring and there's 5 of them that all look the same, pigeon-toed, cross-eyed pets, and then you bring in a good one, and they're like, I don't know, maybe that one's just weird looking. Yeah, it's the right one. But the producers are out there just flooding the rings with crap. Let's take a minute to say, okay, thank you, producers, for making majors, and then let's take a minute for saying, stop, please, make good dogs. Go ahead. Sorry, questions?
That's also up to the stud dog owner to turn down bitches.
It's also for the stud dog owner to turn down bitches, which we have. We've turned down bitches.
If you don't think it's good, you need to turn it
We don't want to be producers. Okay.
Could you do a very brief, someone's looking to get involved and where should they start?
Yes, you should come to some dog shows. You should join groups on Facebook. You should join your national club of whatever breed you want to join. If you have a breed specifically, and you want to join, you want to get Salukis, join the national club before they know who you are and can deny you entry. Okay, that's what I should have done with the Dachshund Club, or any other club. But join the national club before they can tell you no, and then go to shows, go to specialties, sit, listen, talk, buy a catalog, buy a highlighter, sit at ringside and highlight all the dogs that you think are pretty. And then go back and look and see what commonalities they have. Sire, dam, breeder. And then highlight those again with another highlighter. Yellow and blue make green. And then when you see all the greens, you'll know that, Arvind bred this line, and I like those dogs. I should talk to Arvind. That's how you get started, by learning what you like, deciding what you like, finding what you like, and then going to the person who has those dogs. Yes?
I believe if a dog or bitch is not good enough to finish, they are also not good enough to be bred. What are your feelings on that,
Who said that?
Jan Ward?
Oh, Jan, just so you know, my foundation bitch had 9 points, never finished. She is the mother of Abigail and the grandmother of Jana, and I don't care. To be honest with you, somebody, and this is going to sound, Lucy never finished. No, she didn't. Lucy had 9 points, no champion. She never finished. Because remember we bred her to make majors because there was no points back then. We bred her. We had these puppies, and then Lucy's daughters, Abigail and all her daughters, were better than her. And they kept beating her, so we decided, screw it. We're not going to finish her. We didn't need to. I don't believe the quality of a dog is based on a person pointing their finger at them. I just don't. And here's the thing, if we're going to be dead honest, right? So Lucy never finished, gave me my foundation and produced some, and gave me dogs all the way down to now. Everything goes back to Lucy multiple times. Jana, the top multiple best in show winning bitch in breed history, has been bred 3 times. First time she gave me a champion dog and a bitch who needs a major. They're good. They're good. Not great. They're good. Second time, that litter was crap because they had that pneumonia. So, and she was bred to her brother. I wish I could have do that breeding again, but it didn't work out. Never looked back. The third litter I have now. I did a frozen semen breeding. I have 2 dogs and a bitch. One dog is up on leg and tubby and nothing like I like. The other dog is beautiful, make shape and outline, a little loaded, but he's got a bad bite. And then the bitch is beautiful. I'm keeping her. So here's my top winning bitch, who is a dud of a producer. Not for lack of research and breeding her to great dogs. I bred her to really good dogs. It should work. On paper, in real life, everything should have worked. It didn't. Her sister produced a phenomenal litter with the best in show daughter and everything being a group place or a group winner. It happens. But just because they're a champion does not mean that they're going to be a producer. Sorry. Quality is structure. Quality is genetics. A ribbon and a certificate that says somebody liked them, well, that means nothing compared to the genetics and the structure.
What was the last condition that you mentioned as part of dwarfism? She didn't catch it.
No, dwarfism is called achondroplasia, and pes veris, which is a rear issue, is a disease that comes as part of achondroplasia.
We want to know where you got the rooster cup. And yes, it's key lime pie. Arvind made it from scratch.
We got this from the Keys. What was that company, Joyce? Tell us something. Chervis. And the key lime pie is my recipe that Kim Johnson and David Stout and quite a few people have had that they love. And I just thought I would have a slice of pie and drink some tea while I was talking. Obviously, I haven't been eating or drinking because all I do is talk. Questions?
As a breeder, what is one thing you wish judges would not award? Just one.
Just one thing?
Just one. Can you do it?
Okay, I'll do it. Here we go. Judges, or anybody adjudicating that wants to award a ribbon, the one thing that I would love from you when you're on that side is to think to yourselves, would I breed this? Is this worthy of making more? Is this quality? Am I doing a service to this breed when I point?
That's 4 things.
No, that's all one thing. They're just thinking it quietly in their brains. So that's the one thing I want. And breeders, when you put your dog, when you're about to keep it or enter it, say, is this dog actually good? Is this dog actually worth being shown? Am I just dragging this around for my ego, or is this actually worthwhile? Will this dog be of value to the future of this breed? Okay, next.
Do you use standard health tests in your breeding program?
Yes. We check patellas, we check hearts. That's all they ask for in dachshunds. I mean, we've checked eyes. I don't know what else we mean.
We don't have a breed with a lot.
Yeah, we don't have, dachshunds don't have a lot. Our Labrador has every health test known to God and man, plus all the genetics that they ask for the Labrador Club of America. Mm-hmm. And the Chihuahuas have theirs. I mean, we go by what OFA and chick. We go by what OFA and chick require. We don't always turn in the paperwork, which is kind of dumb, but we have it. So, I mean, we have it. It's for us. So, go ahead.
When you breed a bitch for the first time, is it best to use fresh or frozen?
Fresh. Fresh is always better. Unless you use Dr. Mary, who can get a turnip pregnant. And then you can use frozen. You can use 30%. You can do whatever because she's the greatest. That wasn't a plug for Dr. Mary. I just love her. She has been our vet forever. And she has taught us a lot as far as reproduction and theorio in dogs. And I would not be afraid to use frozen on a maiden bitch. I would be afraid to use old frozen that you can't get back and that you don't have access to again on a maiden bitch. We do that on a back-to-back breeding because the fauna and flora is better in the uterus and is prepared to have a litter. Go ahead.
Cole wants to know how we can download this interview. After we're done, we'll publish it and you can save it to your personal Facebook pages.
Who wants to know?
Cole Vanover.
Oh, it'll be on the Chronicle and then it'll be on mine and I guess it'll be in my videos, whatever Marissa said.
It's not on yours.
It will be.
It will be. Go ahead.
I'm trying to catch up.
Sorry guys. There's a lot of questions coming in and some delays. What is this?
Sorry guys, trying to catch up.
You're welcome, Jerry. I appreciate it. I have I think judges are very important, but I do not believe that judges are at fault. I don't believe that they are gods, but I don't believe they're at fault. They can only point the finger to what we bring in the ring. And in this day and age, if everybody get a ribbon and don't upset the poor, fragile egos of the world, judges are not always able to just say, I withhold, second, third, fourth. They just can't, because then they become unpopular, and some moron will go on some goddamn Facebook list and say how bad they are because they're ignorant and they don't have a clue of what was in the ring or how it was being shown, and they don't have a clue that they're actually, the judge did the right thing, and so they write this scathing thing, and then it becomes a situation. I also don't think that some judges care, but that's like in any other sport. I also believe that breeders are ignorant, and then some breeders are trying really hard and have good dogs and consistent, and they get frustrated because they walk in the ring with the result of what producers are throwing out there, and the producers' dogs win, and you're like, what is going on here? So it's a circle of life. We're all responsible in our part, and we all work together to be responsible for the health and safety of our sport. Go ahead.
What is the average age of bitches and males when you feel they are fully matured so you can make the decision that you want to breed them?
That depends on you. This is a hard one because guidelines are wait till everybody's 2. But a Chihuahua bitch would be ready at 18 months old. And a Great Dane bitch may not be ready till she's 3. She may not live till she's 7, but she may not be ready till she's 3. Some Dachshund bitches come in season at 6 months. Physiologically, when they come in season, they're supposed to be mature enough and ready to go. Okay, that's just science. Physiologically, when bitches are bleeding and they're coming in heat, they should be able to be bred. Mentally, emotionally, I don't know. That depends on your dog and how you feel and how you think. I know people whose bitches are so mollycoddled and spoiled that they should never have a litter, because they're going to be shitty mothers. I know other bitches that, could go underneath the staircase, do it all themselves, come out in 8 weeks with a litter of puppies and be like, hey, look what I did. It just depends. Stud dogs I like to breed very early. I'm not like everybody else. I'm not that guy. I like to breed them 9, 10, 11 months old. Breed them, let them know what it is, let them know when the bitch is ovulating, because you know what? My stud dogs that are bred early are not idiots. They eat all the way through a cycle. They only lose their minds when they're ovulating for that brief window of time, and then they go back to normal. They don't howl, they don't act like assholes. They are trained from get-go. This is when you breed them, this is when it goes. Other than that, you can ignore them. Go ahead.
Phoenix is behind so many of our smooth standards. This is Lisa Grace. What have you been able to learn about him?
What have I been able to learn about him? I am going to tell Lisa Grace that I would be happy to answer any questions about what I've learned on Phoenix privately. He is not my dog. I did use him for breeding. I had my reasons and I did my research, but I do not feel that it is my place to speak about him or what I've learned publicly.
What makes you decide to keep a brood bitch versus, say, a sister that is better than the brood bitch structurally?
Okay, so here's the thing. I keep a bitch for what I need. I do my breedings with a purpose. What am I bringing in? A better front, a better rear, more bone, more substance, width, bone density, prettier face. What I'm doing my breeding for is what I keep. I may let somebody have the pick bitch or the best bitch in the litter because my pick, this is what's important, my pick as a breeder is for what I need to move forward in my breeding program. I'm not breeding for ribbons. I'm breeding for a goal. I'm breeding for a vision. So I show the dogs I keep, and they have done very well, but I don't breed them to win ribbons. I breed them for my next step to my next step to my next step. So sometimes people will get a dog and they're like, why would you sell that? That's not what I need to keep here. And again, we're limited in what we can keep. So yeah, you can have the pit bitch. I don't care. If she's what you need and not what I need, she's going to go to the right place. I keep based on what my program needs. Go ahead.
What is one piece of advice you would tell a junior who wants to start breeding?
No. If you cannot afford to pay for a C-section, if you cannot afford to pay for the health care, if you cannot afford to pay for the stud fee, if you're not capable of selling those puppies or advertising them, then I say no, do not start breeding until you're capable. And if you have help, and if your parents are part of this and they're helping you sell puppies or raise puppies or take care of them, then yes. But juniors need to learn, just like everybody else, pedigrees, structure, genetics, health testing. I don't think that they shouldn't be breeding dogs. I was breeding dogs at a young age, but I had great people to help me, and then I had great books to read, and this was back before the internet, so you actually had to ask people, call them, talk to them, go listen to them, ask questions. I don't take it lightly. I think the hardest part for me with juniors breeding is if you're keeping something, what about when you go to college? What about when you have to live on your own? Have you thought about having, doing this breeding program and then you have 4 or 5 dogs and you're about to move out? Are you going to be able to do that with your dogs? Can you place them? This is the hard, you have to think of questions that adults don't have to think of sometimes. And you also have to know that you need a lot of help to learn. Breeding should never be taken lightly. It should never be just done because I want a litter of puppies or because I want to start out in a breed. It should be done with a specific goal and vision in mind and everything in place to make sure that the dog's proper care throughout their life is the most important focus.
Kelly Carge wants to know if she could ask a specific question about 2 specific passport dogs being bred together.
Sure. Which ones?
We'll get there. There's so many.
Is there another question?
I'm scrolling.
Oh, God. Hit me with another one while Kelly's thinking.
Oscar's cracking me up.
Who is?
Oscar.
Oscar, you're so funny. I don't even know what you're saying, but I don't think you're funny.
Here's one. Have you ever kept a dog or bitch that wasn't great but had an amazing pedigree in the hopes they would produce that pedigree?
Yes. Yes, I have. I have kept dogs that weren't great, that were good. I've never kept anything that wasn't good. I've never kept anything that I would consider mediocre or common. I've kept good dogs. Some of them are champions, some are not. And yeah, I bred them because their pedigree and their genetics and their purpose for, like Sanders right now, the Janus son, he's a grand champion. A lot of people love him. I think he's a really good dog. Could he win? Yeah, when I special him, he's got group placements, he's got breed wins. I just think he's a good dog. I don't think he's a great dog, but he's a phenomenal producer. His genetics are amazing, and he is proving that. Go ahead.
Are you in favor of a judge withholding ribbons for poor quality?
Yes. Yes, I am. I'm absolutely in favor of a judge withholding ribbons. And if you don't want to be the bad guy and you don't want to withhold ribbons, just do 2, 3, 4. You can do that, right? In a class of 3, you can give 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I am 100%. I don't think everybody should win a ribbon. And if you walk away a little pissed off and upset, and you go back and you read your standard, or you do more learning, and you come back with a better dog, or you breed that okay bitch to a better dog and get better puppies, that's how most of us started. Not with a pat on the back and a, hey, you get a champion and you get a champion and it's okay. They're just stupid. They don't know what they're doing. No, maybe it's your dog is shit. And you need to learn and come back with a better dog. Let's be real. Come on. This is a tough sport. Why are we mollycoddling everybody? Yes, withhold. Go ahead.
What would be some advice you would give about dealing with puppy buyers to someone who's expecting their first litter?
Interview. And people have been trained now to ask about adoptions and fur babies and all sorts of crap because they anthropomorphize these animals to becoming little children or deficits in their character, personality, or life. they fill a void. So interview, and only sell puppies to people that you think you can have a communicative relationship with for 16 years. Because we talk to people who bought our dogs, a lot of them, constantly, over the years, and we like them. We liked them when we met them. We interviewed them, and we liked them as people. We knew that they weren't annoying. We knew that they had ideas that their dogs weren't, fur babies. And so we sold them dogs because we knew these people were smart, and we could get along with them. And that's basically how I see it when you sell pet puppies. You got to be able to get along with this companion home. Just because if they're difficult, don't do it. If you can't get along with them or you don't like them, don't sell them. The right home always comes along. Truly, it does. Go ahead.
What are your thoughts on breeding right now during the pandemic? On homes desperately wanting puppies because they are home and bored?
Okay. They would want, most of these people would want puppies too if they weren't home and bored. Again, interview. Whether you advertise in the newspaper or we've had huge success now with, what is that, AKC?
That answers another question.
AKC Marketplace. Or you take out an ad in your local magazine or whatever. Whoever you sell dogs to, you have to interview. If you think they're a good home and you would sell them a dog or you think you like them as people, do it. I don't see anything wrong. I'm not stopping breeding because of a pandemic or because of this pandemic. Life will go on. If you don't want to breed, don't. If you want to breed, do. I'm not, people have to make choices. And don't feel guilty. Don't feel bad. You want to breed a litter, breed a litter.
How would you breed sisters that are both outstanding? Outcross one and line breed the other, or personal preference?
Why? What are you trying to get out of them? What's the purpose of breeding them? Where are you going with it? What's your direction? Are you going to breed the offspring for each other? Are you breeding the offspring to something else? Do you have a goal of a stud dog? What are you trying to produce? A better bitch? A better dog? Are you trying to produce, what is the purpose of breeding the two sisters? Whether you outcross or line breed, inbreed, whatever, what is the purpose? Where are you going? Where is your direction? I can't answer that without knowing that.
Do you find that most of the time if you have two standout bitches in a litter, the less show dog one ends up being the producer?
Nope. Michael Jones's bitch, Gemma, multiple group placer, specialty variety winner.
She won a couple groups.
Multiple. She didn't win groups. Her daughters did. She was Jana's sister. She wasn't lesser. She did quite a bit of winning. She had one litter. She had 5 champions, 3 from mine, the dog, 4 champions, 3 of which are group winners. One's a best in show bitch, my Shelly bitch that I campaigned last year, and the brother's a multiple group placer. And then Jana, top show bitch, superstar. We'll be lucky. We'll have 3 champions out of her. Go ahead.
The 2 passport dogs they were talking about is Agatha and Daniel.
What about them?
About breeding the 2 of them. What are your thoughts?
Breeding them together?
Yes,
So Shelly and Kelly.
This is Kelly Carter.
Right. Shelly Groves and Kelly Carge. I will answer that privately, but Agatha is a standard wire, just for everybody knows that we bred. Her sire is a smooth dog of ours named Decker, out of a wire bitch that was out of Jerry Gilpatrick's breeding, whose sire was a dog named Harry from the Fowler's breeding. And the damn Jerry had. So anyhow, and then that's a red wire bitch, and then Daniel is Hedwig's brother. They could be bred together just fine. The puppies would probably be smooth and wire, but I'm not sure about the wire coat. Because she's already a smooth to wire breeding and has a really hard coat.
Back in the day, breeders were able to keep dozens of dogs, but now that's not feasible for most people. If you can only house 4 or 5 dogs, would you keep all bitches? I know some who farm out their bitches to others with sometimes ridiculous contracts for puppies back. I will assume that's a workaround for space issues.
Who asked that?
Melissa Owen.
Okay, so here's my thing with this new. So in the old days, huge kennels, right? So the new stud force in my brain is frozen semen. I have a few dogs frozen, and I have more dogs going to be frozen. And once they are, and I have enough breedings from each dog, I like to say between 10 and 15. The dogs themselves will probably be neutered and put in pet homes. Unless like Jace will stay here forever. They'll probably be neutered and put in pet homes. Because you can't keep everything. And so I think the new stud force for a big kennel is going to be all frozen. I think that's a way to keep a stable of dogs and have enough breedings. As far as my bitches, I like bitches better than dogs, personally, in almost every breed. So I like to live with them, so I would keep them. Again, I just looked out of the kennel. I have 5 or 6 puppy bitches out there. I don't have one of their mothers on the property. They were all bred, spayed, and placed in amazing pet homes, so I could have space to keep the next generation and not be inundated with dogs. And that's really the reality of today. Doing what's best for my dogs. They all got great pet homes. They contributed, and now they've moved on. I wish we could freeze eggs. Oh my God, if we could freeze eggs, that would be so amazing. Anyhow, go ahead, next.
What do you think about public advertising? I think if good breeders do, they give the possibility to the public to get a good dog.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Advertise.
An interview is an interview, no matter what.
Okay, so if you advertise in the newspaper, if you put a billboard up, if you put a sign at the end of your road, I don't give a shit how you advertise your puppies, you're responsible to interview the potential homes. So whether they come off the streets or out of heaven, you're still responsible for that home. You interview them and then make a decision. I don't care where you advertise them. AKC Marketplace, though, has given us phenomenal results.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Deborah says, I was a pet breeder for 4 years. For the past 3 years, I'm trying to improve quality and show. I find it very hard to lose the title of pet breeder. Any advice in making the change?
Don't lose it.
Let your dogs speak for themselves. I'm a pet breeder. Once, a long time ago, this person who I could give 2 craps about was ringside, and in his disdainful voice said, all his dogs are pets. Thinking that I would lose my shit and like fly off the handle, which I have been known to do. And I was like, started laughing. And I'm like, they are pets. My dogs are pets. They live with me and they're my pets. We sell show prospects and companions. Companion quality dogs are dogs that are not good enough to be in the show ring, in our opinion. Show prospects are dogs that have the prospect to be quality, but they still have to be raised, trained, conditioned, and properly presented. But my dogs, even the best in show winners, even the ones that aren't best in show winners, even the ones that you look at and you go, why do you have that? They're my pets. So I'm proud.
She wants to know what she can do to change.
What you can do to change being a pet breeder? Nothing. Breed pets. Breed good, healthy companions because people need them. And show good quality dogs. Put the best in the ring, breed the best, and let your dogs in the ring prove themselves. But don't ever be ashamed of producing dogs for a pet market that is dying to have breeders with quality, healthy, sound dogs. Don't ever be ashamed of that. I don't believe in that. Go ahead.
Does a male have to be perfect for you to keep?
No, we don't have
A dog has to be contributory to my breeding program for me to keep. He does not have to be perfect. There's no perfect dog. I mean, come on. If you keep saying perfect, 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 you won't do shit. You'll never breed a litter. You'll never move forward. I had this problem. I did this. This is my second incarnation. My first breed, I never was able to like do anything because I always wanted the best of the best and the perfect of the perfect. Now I realize it's the imperfections that make them unique, and it's the qualities and the positives that I have to focus on. So no, we keep dogs that aren't perfect. We keep dogs that have to contribute.
Here's a question for you from Chrissy Daniel.
Question.
Do you do home checks?
Do I do home checks? No, I do not do home checks. We interview people so much and we talk to people so much that we get a feel for them as human beings, and we get a history of who their vet is, and we have photos swap back and forth and emails and all sorts of stuff. And with Facebook, I know people have a perception of myself and other breeders, but I have seen people successfully keep a Great Dane in an apartment, and I have seen people absolutely suck balls at keeping a Chihuahua in 5 acres. It's the person and how they care for their animals. It's not their situation. You know, I think if we go home checks, what are you checking for? Do they have a designer couch? Do they have perfect tile? Do they have a big, beautiful mansion? Those are the people usually that leave a housekeeper to take care of their dog while they go on vacation. And not the person who packs their dog up and stays in a cheaper hotel so that they can take them with them when they go surfing. Sorry, that's just my perception. What do I know? Go ahead.
Would you do a test breeding before clearances?
On a stud dog? On a stud dog, probably. Absolutely. Yeah, on a stud dog I would. If he's young, he's got good health history. My fat butt is sliding off the chair. Sorry, guys. If he's young and he's got a good health history, his parents have all their clearances, Yeah, why not? If I shot a prelim or whatever test I need to do, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, I do it all the time. I breed young dogs. Jace had his first litter. Retired his first litter when he was 9 months old. So, I mean, I do it all the time. I don't give a shit. I'm a breeder.
2 questions. Have you heard anything about if Perry's still open, and what advice would you give to keep dogs show ready during the quarantine?
Who asked that? Well, this is a breeding theory conversation.
And Sally about keeping the dogs.
As far as keeping them show ready, do what you do in the real time. Condition them, treadmill, bike, running, prep. As far as dog shows go, that's for a whole different conversation. I'm keeping this on topic. No more questions?
What's your opinion on ridiculous contracts for some but not for others from the same breeder?
Okay, here's the thing, guys. If you go to a breeder and they give you a ridiculous contract, don't sign it. There's no gun to your head. Get another dog from somebody else. You don't like the contract, why are you going to get into it? Like, I don't understand that. And if they give somebody else a better contract, maybe they like them better than you. I don't know. If you yourself and that person have to have something ridiculous on paper, don't sign it. Why would you do that? Back to breeding. Anybody else have any questions about breeding?
What would you start a breeding program with? Only a bitch? Because talking about breeding the bitch and when starting out, that's something easier to do. Find a stud to try and produce better in quality. How does one start out with a stud if it's good quality, but not the show stud flavor of the month? Should new people begin by starting out with just a bitch?
Ooh, that was like a multi-layered cupcake of a question.
This is Wendy Stover.
Wendy, Jesus, Joseph, and Mary. Breathe, girl. Okay, here's the thing. I would start out with a good bitch. As good as you can afford, that's sound and has no health problems. If you have a good stud dog and you have a really good male, buy a bitch for him. I'm not an advocate of it, but buy a good bitch for him. You can breed her to somebody else later on. You can breed her puppies back to him. Like, that's okay too. It's easier to start a breeding program on a bitch. Go ahead.
Earlier you mentioned a brother-sister breeding in which the original litter was an outcross. I'm wondering what differences you see in quality and consistency in a pedigree that is line bred throughout versus a pedigree that is line bred on a dog that was an outcross itself.
Oh, that was another one. This is good.
Gia.
What?
Gia.
Okay, Gia. Line breeding itself is probably the meat and potatoes of any good kennel and breeder. Line breeding, consistent line breeding on quality dogs, not line breeding on shit, but quality dogs, is the meat and potatoes. Inbreeding on quality dogs solidifies traits, and then you probably have to either outcross to a line bred dog or outcross a little bit, come back in to another line breeding. Line breeding on outcrosses, it takes some work to bring you back in. But if those outcrosses were done, if that person who was doing those outcross breedings was doing phenotype based breedings, you might have a better chance to have uniformity and consistency faster than if those people were just putting dogs together. Phenotype breedings where they're only breeding type to type, it'll at least give you more consistency than just dog A to bitch B, make puppies.
What do you do with your bitches after they whelp to get them back in shape?
Run them together, run them on a treadmill. I mean, shape, what shape? Like, what kind of shape are we talking about? Because, like, dachshunds, their legs are this big and their belly scraped the ground and they have like 8 puppies, so they're really stretched out. So they don't really, the new shape that they have is not reminiscent of the old shape that they have, because they can be a little, swingy and draggy, but I mean, to tighten them up, I put them on a treadmill. I do anything like I normally, condition them like I normally do. I just don't expect them to look like, young bitches who've never been bred. What?
If you only have a stud dog and no foundation, would you look to purchase or lease?
Again, I think I could lease from somebody, being who we are. There's a lot of risk in leasing. It's a faster track to starting a breeding program. Purchasing a bitch, waiting for her to grow up, unless somebody sells you an older bitch. But a lot of breeders like myself don't have just a surplus of older dogs hanging around just to provide for other people. But I think that a lease for a lot of people is a good option. and it will fast track you into a breeding program.
Somebody asked what you feed. I don't know if they mean during breeding or just in
Okay, can
general.
somebody clarify what I feed during breeding or what I feed during, I don't know.
Do you co-own when you sell a puppy or do you sell outright?
Whew, another
Hi,
loaded
Angela.
one. I used to co-own, and then I used to co-own strictly co-own, but now, I gauge it on who the person is. To be honest with you, I interview the people, I see what they're doing, and then it also depends on what I'm selling. A very nice lady named Donna Morgenstern got a puppy from me. I don't co-own her. She's a very experienced dog person, and she's a phenomenal home, and I trusted her to have the dog. Then I have another person who's new, and they needed more guidance, and I liked what I sold them. I would like something back out of. It was from a different litter, and I co-own it. It just depends.
But we have a start and a finish on every
But
one.
yes, all my contracts have a start and a finish. It's never for life. It's never for ever. My contracts start on a date and they end on a date. Like, you own the dog till it's finished and I get a puppy back. Like, my contracts have a beginning and an end. There's never a time where you think you're going to own this dog with me till it's 13. Like, I will sign off eventually. And it's in the contract. I always have a beginning and an end date, and I don't co-own forever.
What is your thoughts on breeding a dog or bitch that hips look good but did not pass OFA?
Okay, so this is another tricky one. Hips look good as in, tell me what? Like, you have to understand with hips. Was it a round femur head and a shallow socket? Or was it a good socket but a flat femur head? And then, are you going to look at the x-rays of the dog you're breeding to and the x-rays of his parents? Because, sometimes you can take that round femur head and a shallow socket and breed it to a dog with a deep socket, from parents with deep sockets, and if the prospective dog's one parent had good sockets too, and then, rectify the situation. But when you say they don't pass OFA, are they under fair? Are they... It's a hard one because, is this a dog with mediocre hips out of a litter of phenomenal, everybody else OFA'd and the parents OFA'd and the relatives OFA'd? I could take a chance with that. I wouldn't take a chance with a dog that had, questionable hips out of a litter with questionable hips out of parents with questionable hips. And when I say questionable, I mean fair or didn't pass.
How close is too close when doing line or inbreeding?
I haven't gotten there yet. I think, so with line breeding, inbreeding, and outcrossing, just remember, what's there is there. So when you're doing inbreedings and line breedings, you're intensifying, you're making the genes, there's less diversity, right? So if there's recessive health issues, they're going to pop out. If there's recessive any issues, they're going to pop out as you're going tighter. So once you see them, then you have to make adjustings accordingly. But I haven't done anything that's too tight. Genetic diversity spells out that when you start breeding too tight, you start to lose health, structure, and size. But then again, if you're picking the biggest ones, you're really not losing size. So it just depends. It all just depends. I haven't done too tight of breeding yet.
What do you think about dual sire?
I think it's super expensive. AKC, hello, give me a break. I did a dual sire frozen semen litter, which I have right now, and it's costing me an ass ton of money to register. But I think it's fantastic, especially I did a bitch who doesn't have a great ability to give me eggs. She doesn't have if I did a dual sire litter with say my Petunia bitch, I would be great because she has 8 to 10 puppies. So I probably would have a very good chance of maybe having a litter dual sire instead of a lit with one of each. Go ahead. What time is it? I don't want to keep everybody on here forever. I'm sorry.
3:25.
What?
3:25.
3:25, and I started at 2. Okay, so let's do another 15 minutes and wind down. If anybody has questions, please save them. Email me. Email me. Yeah, you can email me. At are you ready? At House Passport, HOUSEPASSPORT 1 at gmail.com. You can email me questions, and then I can print them out, review them, and I've already talked to Tom and Amy about doing another segment where I just answer questions. So go ahead. Next.
If your puppies are show quality, do you require the new owners to achieve champion status of said puppy?
Nope. If I want to show it and I think it's worthy of being shown and kept, I'll keep it and show it. I don't require anybody to be forced to do this. On a co-own, maybe, because that's part of the reason they're going into it. But to be honest with you, what's the fun if somebody's forcing you? Help them along, teach them, guide them, encourage them, tell them to come to a show where they can set up with us and, rah, rah. Yes, but there's no forcing. People who come to us for show prospects want to show. They come to us for a purpose. I don't put show prospects into pet homes and then bully them into showing them. I think that is absolutely asinine. If I want it to be finished that bad, I will just keep it myself.
Do you utilize any standard protocol or program for raising pups? And any suggestions in this weird time for socializations and safe distancing to get puppies' experiences?
Yeah. Who's the one that does the upside down? Was that Carmen? That does the upside down and the cold and the massaging and all that stuff? I think Carmen has that sensory thing in his book. I think Carmen Battaglia has that. We've used that for a long, long time. We also spend a lot of time with our puppies. When they come out, we're the ones who cut the cords, we dry them off. And if you know anything about horses, that's imprinting. That our scent is one of the first scents that they smell before their mothers. And then we spend a lot of time, we bottle feed our puppies morning and night usually, not as a supplemental thing, not as a necessity, but more as consistency to make sure everybody's consistently growing and eating. And it also gives us a lot of time with them twice a day, holding, touching, feeling, and we're giving them something comforting that hits their sensors that they're not aware of yet. We do a lot of massaging. We cut toenails from the first day. Like every 4 or 5 days, we cut toenails, we wash them down, and then as they get older and their ears or eyes are opening, we have TVs on, we do noise, we do radio. Obviously I'm loud, and if you know Joyce and I together, we're really fucking loud. So and Marissa's here, and they get clanging and banging. She uses the vacuum on them. So we do all of
Not
that.
on them.
Not on the puppies, but by the she uses the vacuum by the X-Pen. She does, She does all this stuff with the X-Pen. I mean, we bang around our house. We don't tippy-toe around them or anything. So, and I think as far as social distancing goes right now and getting puppies out, get them out, put them on tables, take them, if you're going to go into Home Depot with your mask on, take your puppy with you. I mean,
they're not going to catch corona.
Yeah, they're not going to get corona, so I think you'll be okay.
Are you finding smaller litter size with close line breedings?
Nope. If you breed for fertility, you will get fertility. If you do not breed for fertility, you will not get fertility. If your stud dog does not want to jump on a bitch and breed her, you're a fool for using him multiple times. If your bitch cannot hold a pregnancy and you keep giving her shots and keeping progesterone shots and trying to keep her pregnant, you're a fool. We cause our own problems as breeders.
Yeah.
They have to want to have sex, they have to want to get on top of each other, they want to have to get pregnant, stay pregnant, and they have to deliver them. And we don't keep bitches that don't want to be mothers. You don't want to be a mother, you don't have to be here. Bobby McMahon, Mylin Markennels, may she rest her soul, taught me to be tough. And she taught me that fertility is bred. And if you don't breed for fertility, then you will not have fertility. So it has nothing to do with inbreeding or line breeding. Inbreeding or line breeding just facilitates the genetics that are there. You are the ones putting it in. Go ahead.
On past dual sires, have you ever had pups from both sires?
This is my first time doing a dual sired litter, so we'll see. Janae's been sent out, we'll see. I'm always afraid that the wrong egg and the right sperm hit each other. Like, if I do a dual sire and that egg was supposed to be for that sperm and I just ruined my chances of having the right puppy being born, so I've always been too paranoid to do it. I've always just done single sired litters. This is my first time. And it's expensive. Did I mention how expensive it is? Go ahead. Next. How what time are we? I just don't want to go on forever. I'm sorry, guys. I know.
It's 3:30.
Pretty much wrapped it up.
Okay.
What is your opinion on using 10+ year frozen semen to diversify?
Phoenix is like 100 years old. Here's the thing. It's not the age of the semen, but the way it was stored and collected, stored, and kept. I've used, Phoenix is a very old semen. Marsh, who I used, is very old semen. And breedings in the past that I've done are very old semen. It's not the semen. It's not the semen age. It's the quality of when it was collected and the time frame and how it was kept. Right, Mary? I think I said that right. Dr. Mary can answer that better. She's the best.
Have you dealt with pyometria in a breeding bitch?
I did. Mike Jones's bitch had pyometria, and she was spayed. That was after her first litter. It was a tragedy. If you breed dogs long enough, you will experience everything. I don't want to ever wish that on anybody, but if you breed dogs long enough, everything will show up, one point or another.
Would you consider doing this on a regular basis?
What? Oh,
Tops,
this?
The tops, this.
The fact that anybody wants to hear my voice on a regular basis other than Joyce, who married me, is amazing. And she really doesn't either. I think she wanted. That's why I have a new birdhouse. Yes, I would be happy to do this. I mean, it doesn't. I'm actually enjoying it because I feel like what we've lost in the sport is what I grew up with, is people talking, and me saying to you, that's a fucking ridiculous idea, and you saying, nope, you just haven't given enough thought, you're being an asshole, and me going, okay, and then thinking about it, or me going, oh my god, how did you get that? Tell me everything, and finding the details out, or you saying to me, you really are high on that puppy, but what about this, this, and this, and do you remember that the parents had this and this, and us talking to each other. The times when people had friends who evaluated litters and we all were honest about making better dogs, and being excited that somebody could possibly have done a breeding to produce a stud dog that we could use, or a litter where we might get a bitch from, like, those days are fleeting, and they shouldn't be. We should be at a time when we have more resources, more finances, more everything, and we should be able to even be more open. We should be less egotistical and more aware that as breeders, we need to band together because the world is against us, and we need to show them that we are essential. Off my soapbox, so what else? I'm almost done. We're going to wrap this up. 2 more questions.
What's your next Sunday school topic?
Sunday school was listen, I was so grateful for the Chronicle. I thank Tom and Amy immensely for inviting me to come and do Sunday school. This was a one-time thing. I don't think they've actually thought about it as a normal Sunday school thing. Well, they're going to do a normal Sunday school. I don't think it's with me, but with other people, which I think is fantastic. I can do more broadcasts if people have ideas and they want to talk about them. I'd be more than happy to do that. And we can.
To be honest, we hope to all be back to dog shows on Sundays.
Yeah, hopefully we'll all be going back to dog shows soon and to regular life and moving forward. So, I mean, I will find time to do this, but I would love to do it in the future. So, I thank you, everybody. The list of books, Joyce has put on the list of books.
It's in the comments.
It's in the comments. And I can also
Do it on your page.
do one on my page for the list of books. And what else? That's it. Go ahead.
And you'll put your email in the comments too.
I'll put my email in the comments. I'll put the list of books in the comments. Again, Tom and Amy have been very gracious to say that if there's a lot of questions, I will go ahead and look at all of them and start answering them, and then we can do another one of these where I answer the questions that I didn't get to. I would love to talk to anybody at dog shows, and if you have questions or thoughts, I would love for you guys to talk to each other, to me, to your mentors, to the people you got your foundation from, and really open up communication so we're not afraid to inbreed or line breed or outcross, that we don't make people's pariahs because they do that we help each other sell puppies, that we start learning to market ourselves in a better light, and that we think more highly of ourselves so that we feel like we deserve to sell puppies and people deserve to get them from us. And that we will fight. That's how we will fight the AR legislation, and we will fight the bad thoughts about breeders. And I hope that this just helps you guys to really make choices and understand that not everything deserves to be bred, and not everything that is bred is going to be outstanding, and maybe you will have outstanding. And if you focus on the standard and producing quality and preserving function and purpose, you will produce good dogs. And ribbons are rewards for quality. They're not what we breed for, but they are a pat on the back. And good judges will put up good dogs, regardless of who's showing them, if they are properly conditioned and trained, and in good competition. They'll find them, they do, and they award them. I know this. We had no money, and we campaigned Jana, and she won 12 best in shows, and good judges, and people who normally had not pointed to my dogs or pointed to me, they kept finding her because she was just good. And they kept pointing to her. So I believe in our sport. I believe in the people in our sport. And I believe in dogs and breeding dogs. Thank you, everybody. I hope to do this again in the future, and I hope you have a great day.